welcome. This is One Broadway Collaborative in Lawrence, Massachusetts. I'm Aaron Tornberg, and I'm here today with the fabulous Linda Marks. How are you doing, Linda?
Really good, and I'm very happy to be here in this wonderful space you're creating for the community.
All right, thanks, Linda. Linda's been here to perform. She's been performing a long time and is one of the more prolific performers around. If you check out what she's doing on Facebook, it's like every day there's new stuff. And how many albums did you have in the last 3 years? Like three or four?
I released 2 in 2020 and 2 in 2021, and I'm working on 2 for 2022. And I released albums in 2019 and 2020, yeah. So I think I have a total of 11 albums right now with 2 on the way.
So you've been doing all this work on albums. How many songs do you write typically per month?
I can't say it's just per month, but I've been going at the pace of about 22 to 24, maybe 26 per year during the pandemic.
Wow.
So, yeah, the whole sheltering at home thing has given me more opportunity to play the piano, since the space where I'm working from home is also where I have the piano I do live streams from. So if there's any spare space, it's very easy to go right to the piano.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I think a lot of people got more prolific over the pandemic. I mean, I wrote a few. I'm not like you or some of the people who are writing just constantly. But that's great. So when you come up with your songs, is it typically like you're playing the piano and something occurs to you, or is it some other way?
It's more like something catches me. You know, the songs are usually generated from something. For example, when Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, it touched me, and I wrote a song called Marty and Ruth, which is the story of her marriage to Marty. And having read some of the stories about their relationship, it was very poignant. And at the very end of the song, I even used some of the words that she wrote and he wrote to one another. So that's an example. I have a song called Nightmare in the Capitol that was my response to the Capitol riots. All One Human Race was my response to the George Floyd shooting. I have a funny song called the Facebook Songwriters Blues, which is a recent one, which came when I tried to sing to my own MP3s of my own album that was just being released, and Facebook muted me singing to my songs that I had the copyright to tracks that I had the copyright to an album I had the copyright to, and there was no recourse. So, you know, funny things. I have a song called Winter Sounds, which is on my new home album. That's also really funny because I hate winter. And when the pandemic started and the gyms closed, as someone who was used to going to the gym 7 days a week my entire life, I started taking walks every single day and watched the seasons change. And part of what that did is it reminded me how much I hate the winter. So I have a funny song called Winter Sounds about that very subject. So that's how songs happen.
Yeah, that's great. So you have a new album called Home that I just got, which is really nice. It's lovely. I've listened to it a few times.
Thank you.
Do you want to maybe share one of those cuts with us so that people can get a taste of what that album is like?
Goodness gracious. It covers so much territory. It's hard to have a representative set from just one song, but I do have some songs that I could play from it. Maybe what I'll do is Be the Light, which is the closing song on the album. And this particular song was inspired by Amanda Gorman's inaugural poem,
right,
where she talked about not just seeing the light, but being the light. And when I've played this both on live streams and the handful of times I got to play live when it was actually safe to do so,
right,
a lot of people said that this was really a song for humanity. And I've had the vision of having a whole group of people singing it together, all ages and backgrounds. It hasn't yet been safe enough to put that together. But last week, Amy Malkoff, who's an incredibly creative, both visual and musical artist, designed a gorgeous lyric video for this song that has some of the imagery that I wish to convey with the lyrics. So This is Be the Light. Be the light, be the light, join our brothers and our sisters seeking life and liberty. Be the light, be the light, keep the flame of peace still burning in the heart, humanity. Many hills to climb, barriers to scale, past moments knocked us down, but still our spirits will prevail, trying to transform darkness underneath, finding ways to tunnel through the belly of the beast. Truth can light our way, onward brave and free. Let's be a good example now for all the world to see. Bridging young and old, joining red and blue, holding hands together, we're united, me and you. Be the light, be the light, join our brothers and our sisters seeking life and liberty. Be the light, be the light, keep the flame of peace still burning in the heart, humanity. Our hearts can drop defenses when truth can shatter lies, peel off the veils that hide the simple beauty from our eyes. Hear our prayers, hear our cries. We've been lost and we've been shattered, but our wholeness still resides. We are brave, we are strong, joining voices as we're singing lets us know that we belong. Be the light, be the light, join our brothers and our sisters seeking life and liberty. Be the light, be the light, keep the flame of peace still burning in the heart, keep the flame of peace still burning in the heart, humanity.
Thank you, Linda.
My pleasure.
That was great.
Thank you.
That is an interesting concept. I've actually heard that before. To be the light is an important one. I think there was a Facebook post I saw during Hanukkah about it.
Cool.
Where it was saying that you should be the light. And I think that that's a great sentiment. So it's nice you came up with a song for that, because I think it's something people should think about more. It's not just about being a good person. It's about being an example.
Exactly.
And that's crucial.
It is crucial.
And what are you doing lately with the pandemic going on? Are you doing a lot of performing? I know you performed here once. You said you just did like 3, I think you said?
Well, I did some outside performances. In terms of inside performances, there was a big show in August 1st, which was a triple album release concert. My 2 2020 albums lost their release concert that was going to be in November of 2020 thanks to the pandemic. And then Monuments of Love, which was my first of two pandemic-inspired albums for 2021, needed a release concert. So I did a triple release concert at the Burren with full band, the first time I'd gotten to play with other musicians live since the pandemic, and that was August 1st. The Women in Music Gathering, the Artist Alliance group that I run that's going to be doing a benefit for One Broadway Collaborative in a couple of months, we have an annual show we do at the Burren that's a benefit concert, and obviously we lost that due to the pandemic, but we got to at least do it in November, and that was starting to get dicey. Even August 1st, people were reluctant to come inside to a show. In May and June, I think it was the safest, and then the numbers started going up. For our November show, we had people buy tickets to donate to the charity, but they were afraid to come inside.
Right.
So, and I've performed here inside. Outside, I did a number of shows as well. There was a show at the Arts at the Armory in Somerville. There was, I played in the Rhode Island Folk Festival. There were a few more shows, if I just were to go to my calendar and check them off. At Mark Hebert's new place, Greenville Junction Shop, that's another example. I did a bunch of shows outside, which just felt safer both to me and to the people attending, and then just a few inside. But what I have been doing since March of 2020, and I never in my wildest dreams would expect that I'm going to be approaching 100 shows in just a very short time, I've been doing a weekly live stream called Songs from the Heart, Meditations for the Heart, that I did in response to people saying that both of the two sides of my life, the songwriting and being a mind-body psychotherapist, to integrate those together would be very uplifting for people, and people needed that. So usually when someone says, this would be really helpful, could you do it? I usually say yes. So I started that live stream series, which is on the weekends. It's usually Sundays at 8 p.m., but on occasion it's Saturdays at 8 p.m. So that's been going since March of 2020. And I've also done some benefit shows virtually, some venues have had virtual shows. Like, for example, I'm one of the curators of the Loop at the Armory Singer-Songwriter Series. And we used to be a live show until, of course, like everything else, the pandemic shut it down. And for September, the Armory asked, could I start it up again? And we concluded virtually, sure. So now it's a monthly show. And I both curated and performed in the first show. And then just last week, Women in Music Gathering was part of a show of this monthly series. And I both curated that one and performed in it. So there are opportunities to do some live streams on all different kinds of platforms. Last year's Folk Alliance concert, everything was virtual. So I did 2 showcase performances from my piano at home with people all over the place. So it's a mixture of virtual with live when it's safe.
And you have you've also done something called the Music Salon.
Yes.
When did that start?
Well, the physical music salon started when I moved into my Waltham house in the fall of 2014. And so every month I had an intimate house concert, which became a really loved and adored series for people who came to it. In fact, many performers said it was their best ever experience, which was amazing to me. I have a modest home, 20 people makes it full. But there's something very special about the intimacy and when I focus on community building, because what we do is we'd start with a potluck dinner, and I'm a cook, so I always make beautiful things as a base. And then we'd have either a featured visual artist or poet or author have some time, and then there'd be the music portion. I'd usually do like a half-hour opening set, sometimes with one of my musical friends and colleagues, and then we'd have a special guest who is the feature. And so we did that straight through till, I think, February of 2020 was the last one we could do safely, and then we had to shut it down. And during the pandemic, I tried to figure out what I could do to pivot. I have a Music Salon Facebook group, and so I started a virtual house concert series for a period of time. And even though it's a lot more fun to have people gathered together in a space, the magical thing with the virtual house concert is I could actually have artists who live in other countries or other states be part of the lineup. So I would have a format where I'd usually have 6 or 8 people each do half-an-hour sets over 3 or 4 hours, and just it would be people who might have performed that were regional, but it was also people that could be from anywhere. So that part was fun.
Well, I know that during the pandemic, we had a lot of people who were involved with open mics in other countries. Like we were doing a lot. There's a few popular ones. There's one in England, the Dun Cow in particular. But, you know, there's the Israel crew, and I think there was a German one that a few people I know were involved with. It was a Germany, but it was an English folk song open mic. So I know that that's been pretty exciting, as being able to connect with musicians from all over the world.
Yes.
And you have a lot on your Music Salon page, I imagine.
There's the Music Salon started welcoming people to post songs of their own on the page or a live stream on the page. I've asked people not to do commercials, but it's very hard to keep people from doing that. So people do post from all over the place. And one fun thing that happened during the pandemic is there's a national project, actually it's a global project called My Song is Your Song. And when you decide that as a songwriter you're willing to do it, they pair you up with another songwriter who would be anywhere in the world. So I was paired up with an Australian songwriter named Sharon Start. So she covered one of my songs and I covered one of her songs. And the way it works is you make a videotape and then you pair them and they get played together, which is really fun. So there have been a lot of opportunities to connect globally, virtually.
Wow. It's pretty cool in some ways.
It is.
I wouldn't say it's worth it.
I agree.
But it is cool.
Yeah.
It's sort of making the best of a bad situation.
Yeah. And the other thing is many people enjoy not having to get in their car and drive somewhere.
Right.
You know, if you're a musician, like I'm a piano player, and when I have to lug a keyboard and a sound system, the other thing I did a bunch of over the summer were Porch Fest, because those were outside.
Right.
So that's another easy, safe thing to do. But that made me think of all the lugging of equipment to set up for it. But when you do a live stream and you're in the comfort of your own home and you don't have to drive, you don't have to lug gear, you don't have to set up, that's a benefit.
Right. Well, the Porch Fests are kind of cool. I was thinking here we should do one when we get our stuff built. We're actually going to do some facing the street, facing Broadway.
Absolutely.
Here. And also, our open mics, the open mic I do on Sunday is virtual and live. So
hybrid.
If you feel comfortable coming here, you can. And if you feel like you aren't comfortable but you'd like to participate, you can always do the Zoom participation. And we still have someone from, I think, Nevada and someone from Israel who come pretty regularly.
That's fantastic.
So that's always fun. And we get a good crowd. So you got another song for us?
Sure. This is one of my newer songs, and it's something I think we all yearn for right now, particularly as the pandemic is surging. It's called Safe Harbor. Thank you.
So, it seems like some of your album, you had said it was inspired by Mark Bishop Evans leaving. Was that?
Oh, not the album. What happened?
Yeah.
Okay. Mark and I did some wonderful collaborative performing. We were working with Jackie Damsky as well before the pandemic and had put a trio together. And sometimes I performed with him duo, sometimes trio. And then in the pandemic world, of course, everything goes away. But I still had him record on some of my albums. Mm-hmm. What I wanted to do, though, before he went away, was do some studio videos of him and me performing sort of as both a marker, but also a goodbye and thank you gift. Mm-hmm. So he and I went into Doug Kortler's studio a few weeks back, and we recorded 3 songs, songs that we had performed together and songs that he had recorded with me on 2 of my albums. So we did studio videos, a song called Kindness, Home, which is the title song of my new album. Kindness was from my Monuments of Love album. And the only cover I recorded in 2021, which is a beautiful song called I See You by Grant Malloy Smith. So we recorded those as studio videos, and Doug Kortler finished 2 of them earlier this week and the final one last night so that I could post it this morning to wish Mark a safe travel. Mm-hmm. So that is the piece about the inspiration to be able to, sort of memorialize a collaboration when someone's going across the country and you don't know if or when you'll get to sing with them again. Well,
if they ever figure out that collaborative software that you can perform together, maybe you'll do it again.
Exactly. For sure. That would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I know that there is software out there that works okay and deals with the lag time, but it's just you have to be able to set it all up, and it's tough. Yeah. But, who knows?
Yeah, tech is not my forte. I'm more the creative and less the techie.
So you worked with Mark a lot before the pandemic, and then, now that he's going away, are there others you're trying to work with?
Well, that's an interesting question. It's hard to know what to do because of the pandemic. For my albums, particularly the 2 I just did, suddenly the musicians who could play parts on the album became a national or a global choice.
Right.
Initially, recording albums would be something you do with people you actually play with in real life, because when you want to play out your show, you want them to be there.
Right.
But now it's a whole different story. So my last 2 albums had a lot of musicians who don't live anywhere near here and probably wouldn't be able to get here, and I couldn't afford to bring them here. Mm-hmm. So in terms of playing in real life, I haven't known what to do with that because it's hard to know what's going to happen. There are people that I've done collaborative shows with, like I'll produce a show and have 3 or 4 people, like Craig Sonnenfeld and Rick Drost are 2 people who I've done a lot of stuff with. And
he was just here, actually, Craig.
Yeah, that's great. I love Craig. And Mark, I actually did a bunch of shows that had Mark, me, Craig, and Rick together. Mm-hmm. And then there's the Women in Music Gathering collaborative shows. And I've invited people from a lot of different circles. I actually, just up on the Facebook was when we did the Benefit for the Hearing Room, at the Music Salon a couple of years ago, and that had a wonderful lineup of people.
Yeah, I remember that night. Yeah. It was great.
It was a wonderful it was a wonderful community gathering, and it was a wonderful musical gathering. So in terms of looking at who to collaborate with, it's hard to know when you don't know when there's going to be safe real-life gigs or, who's going to be available to collaborate. So I sort of have to feel that one out as the pandemic unfolds. But I really love collaborating. Some of my favorite shows are when I play an album because I'm an arranger and I write parts for a lot of instruments. I write harmonies. And even though it's perfectly meaningful to do stuff just as piano and vocals, when I hear a whole arrangement in my mind, it's crazy. Actually, on that note, that song Safe Harbor, I'm going to have Kemp Harris, who is here, do that with me as a duo as a recording, because I feel like his vibe is very heartfelt, and it's a heartfelt song, and I feel like there's a lovely chemistry there. So that may be just a one song collaboration, but there's stuff like that too where, oh, this song would be good with this person.
Did you know him before he came here?
Well, here's the funny story. Before the pandemic, his manager contacted me about performing at the music salon.
Okay.
And what I had told his manager is that I was booked out 2 years at the time. And therefore, I couldn't offer something right away. And then the pandemic came, and I had to cancel everything for the 2 years I had booked.
Right.
So, he was in the back of my mind, but I hadn't been able to do anything. Then a friend of mine, Isabel Stover, who's a wonderful jazz singer and part of the Women in Music Gathering, was working on a song that Kemp had put together. And so there his name came back around again. And then when my son and I were here for his show, there he was. So that was the first time I'd actually been with him in person, and it was a real pleasure when he invited me up to sing. And, that's when I felt like, wow, there's a nice vibe here. This is someone who to do some duo work like on that song would be really fun.
Yeah, and we did that exercise where he had us write the COVID blues.
Yeah.
What was the phrase he came up with? I can't remember. But it was like it was basically telling us how to write a blues song by explaining the structure, and then we all had to write one. And it doesn't take much time to write a blues song.
No. And that was really fun doing it here that night, having everybody go around the room and just come up with verses. It was really fun.
Yeah, it's he's great, and I hope you guys do get to perform together.
Thank you. Cool. No, that would be wonderful, because I love to work with people who have a vision of uplifting others, and also who just really come from the heart and soul. I just really vibe with that, and he is so much about that. So
right,
yeah.
And so what else are you doing? Like you have your therapy practice,
yes,
that you talked about last time we had a podcast.
Yes.
So did you said you went virtual for the pandemic?
Yes, I had to go virtual in March of 2020, and I never in a million years imagined practicing therapy virtually, but it became necessary for everyone's safety. And ultimately, it's actually really cool. Like my cats get to show up, and my clients'
Right.
cats and dogs, my corgi barks, when there's an explosion from the new high school being constructed, the house shakes and my clients hear it. So, all those things that don't happen in person, but it's actually worked really well. And some of my clients like that they don't have to commute. It makes scheduling easier. I do miss the in-person part, particularly since I'm a mind-body psychotherapist, but it's amazing what you can still intuit and pick up just because you have a visual platform, so you can still see nonverbals, and I'm pretty good at feeling people's energy no matter where they are. And I have a monthly group that's met for God knows how many years that we actually had to pivot that to Zoom as well. And the group was afraid that part would be harder because the group actually had hands-on as part of the healing work. But even without being able to do the hands-on, there's been a lot of power to the group too. So yeah, I had a client who's been only working with me for like a couple of months who said to me, "Did you ever see clients in person before?" And I laughed because I had to tell her, you know what? Up until the pandemic, I never would have imagined that I wouldn't.
Right.
So.
Yeah, but, human beings tend to be fairly flexible when they have to be.
Yeah.
It's evolution of behavior, I suppose.
Yeah, and I'm grateful to be a creative because in many ways, when you get circumstances like this that no one ever imagined happening, never mind that it's dragging on for years and years, it really invites the creative spirit to look at, okay, how do I uplift? What can I create? How do I work with the circumstance and make something beautiful from the circumstance rather than just fall into the fact that the old life we used to have may never happen again?
Right. Well, I don't want to say never.
I don't know, and we could get into a whole thing about variants and mutations and all that jazz.
Yeah.
Simply in the near to medium term future, we're going to be dealing with COVID for a while.
Yeah. That's unfortunately true, I think. Mm-hmm. So you also are active in, you mentioned the Buddy Dog Society a lot.
Buddy Dog Humane Society,
Yeah.
yes.
What is that?
It's an animal shelter, and a wonderful animal shelter. It's in Sudbury, Massachusetts. When my son was 4 years old, we adopted a feral kitten from Buddy Dog, and right now I have 2 Buddy Dog rescues that happen to be kitties. They have dogs and cats both. My music director, whose name is Grace, who likes to sit on top of the piano and sometimes even help choose what I'm going to do in my live stream, she's a Buddy Dog rescue. And right before the pandemic shut the world down, I have a cat named Angelica, who was a 4-month-old kitten who literally jumped into my arms on January 30th or 31st. And she slept there for 90 minutes, at which point it was very clear I couldn't leave without her. Mm-hmm. So I have those connections, and I just love the care they take of the dogs and cats. Before the pandemic, for many years, I had the practice of every 4 to 6 weeks going down and visiting the cats and the dogs, hanging out with them. If they let me walk a dog, walking a dog, at least saying hello to them, hanging out with the cats, going in some of the big caged-in structures that have cats and playing with them. So that was one of my sort of self-nurturing and also giving attention to the animals practices. That couldn't happen when the pandemic happened because Buddy Dog couldn't let people in anymore. Right. But one thing that's been fun more recently is my son and I have been doing some volunteer work helping them. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of it's been outside, which is safe, but sometimes we've been doing stuff inside, and it's really nice getting to see the animals who are there, and it feels so different on a weekend when there used to be all these volunteers just hanging out with the animals and helping with people coming through, where now it's just a skeleton staff giving them good care, but not the degree of socialization of when lots of people came in. And I feel for the animals, I feel for the staff. So it is a wonderful, wonderful place.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And I know that some of your shows I've seen, to benefit
yes.
the
yes.
Buddy Dog Humane Society.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a dog person, but cats are cute as long as they're not in my house. It's fine.
Well, I have a corgi as well, and people who know me know a corgi.
Yeah, I know. You post. He has his own Facebook fan page.
He has his own Facebook page. Yes, he does, and he even has his own song. So.
All right. Do you know it?
I didn't happen to bring the chart on that one, so.
All right,
it's
so
very
you can't
cute.
Play that.
I can't play it, but you can listen to it on any of the digital platforms.
Okay, we'll listen to it. What's it called?
It's called Noah Corgi is the Boy from Ipanema. It's really, really cute. It's about his wiggle walk, his salsa dance, swaying in his gaucho pants. It's really cute.
It sounds like it. So I'll check that out. Everybody else should too. And what do you have for us? Another song? You want to do one from the same album, or? Yeah,
this is the only cover that I have recorded this year, and it's by Grant Malloy Smith and Mike Greenlee. This is one that Mark and I did together on the studio videos we just made, in sort of the ritual of his moving to California. And I particularly love this song because of what its message is. I was fortunate enough, thanks to E.J. Willett, to take a master class with Grant Malloy Smith. And when the master class was done, he did a concert, and I heard this song called I See You. And what it's about is the invisibility that many older people feel. So the message of I see you, some people say, is it the ICU where people with COVID are going? It's like, no, it's like, I see with my eyes you. You're not invisible. It's just a really beautiful message. And Mike and Grant together did such a nice job. Mike is a wonderful lyricist. And I actually, one of the gifts of this song is I've gotten to know Mike as well as Grant. And they're both extraordinary people with gigantic hearts. So it's called I See You, about older citizens. Young and strong and all of that, they run by and don't look back. They didn't seem spent a lifetime building up the world we have today. Time runs like rivers to the sea. Time pulls you in like gravity. You feel fragile, but you're strong. Think you're invisible, but you're wrong. I've been inspired by your courage all along. I see your whole life shining through. I see you. After all the years you've lived, giving all you had to give, folks call you a senior now as if that were your name. You built cars and factories, saved us all from tyranny. After all your eyes have seen, your world just ain't the same. Time runs like rivers to the sea. Time pulls us in like gravity. You feel fragile, but you're strong. Think you're invisible, but you're wrong. I've been inspired by your courage all along. I see your whole life shining through. I see you. All the friends and all the loved ones who have gone. Every brave face, every smile that you put on. In these twilight hours, wishing can't hold back the dawn. You feel fragile, but you're strong. Think you're invisible, but you're wrong. I've been inspired by your courage all along. I see your whole life shining through. I see you. I see you.
That's a good topic too. The reminds me of the John Prine song too, "Hello in There." Kind of about
Yeah.
paying attention.
Yeah.
When someone's older, it means they're still in there.
They're absolutely in there.
Yeah.
And many older people are incredible treasures. The life experience they have, the perspective they have, the stories they have, the skills they have. So, when I think of, it's interesting to look at what an older person is, because AARP starts going after you when you hit 50, which to me it's like, come on. There are years of work ahead and years of life ahead. I think of like when a person's 85, that's what I think of as an older person. And an 85-year-old just has so much wisdom and lived experience to share. So,
yeah. And I think it's good to point that out. That's what I like about a lot of your songs, is a lot of times they are pointing things out to people. You do get topical stuff sometimes, so
definitely.
It's good.
Yeah, in fact, one of the ones that I should definitely share is Nightmare in the Capitol, which was my response to the Capitol riots. That's also on the Home album. And one of the things that really was weighing on me during the pandemic, but particularly with the Capitol riots, was, what does life look like through the eyes of a child? What is it like to be a child growing up in a pandemic where all kinds of this crazy unsafe stuff happens in terms of social political stuff on top of a global pandemic? So anyhow, that there are many topical songs that have come from the pandemic because the pandemic gives lots of topical material.
Yeah. Well, you want to go ahead?
Sure.
All right. Let's hear that.
Nightmare in the Capitol from my new home album.
Evil could lead and
That's a horrible thing that happened on the 6th. I mean, that's sort of just historically unprecedented. It's unbelievable that happened in this country. I mean,
it is. It's incredibly frightening.
Right. I mean, we grew up in a country that, you could pretty much be proud of generally. I think that, World War II changed the country into something where we could be really proud that we had done something for the world. And lately, not so. Yeah.
No, not at all. It's actually pretty sad.
Mm-hmm.
Very sad.
Yeah, and it's been the focus of a lot of songwriting, I think.
It has been. I know. If we were to have a show where people just wrote songs of things that had happened during the pandemic that were of concern, there'd be a lot of songs.
Yeah, it's true. A lot of people had written stuff because they had the time at that point. So, so what are your plans for this year? We're getting toward the end of the year here. What's 2022 for you?
I have no clue because of COVID.
Right.
We have the Omicron variant that's surging, that's much more contagious than even Delta. Delta's still here. I told you a little earlier on Monday, I had 3 clients all diagnosed with COVID 2 that day. They had to cancel their appointments because they had to go get tested, and sure enough, they had it. And another one who was a teacher who had been diagnosed on Saturday. Mm-hmm. I don't know what to say in the face of that. I will be seeing clients from home. Hopefully more of my clients won't be getting COVID. I'm trying to stay safe and keep my family safe, doing music virtually. But beyond that, it's very hard to know what's going to be possible with this level of epidemic. I saw an article that said at the rate that Omicron is killing people, like 1 in 220 people might die from it at the peak of when it's really at its peak. So that's really scary.
Well, what it should do is it should get people vaccinated. I think people need to realize that is going to make a difference.
It will, because Omicron breaks through vaccination. However, the percentage of people that end up in hospitals or dying from COVID when they're vaccinated and boosted is much lower than unvaccinated. So, yes, it's a vaccination isn't a cure-all. On the other hand, it gives us a much better chance of not being dead.
Right, and that's the point.
That is the point.
So, do you have plans for an album, though?
Oh, yeah, I have 2 albums, actually. Okay. I have...
so the material's done.
Well, I've written a lot of material. I have an album called Everyday Legends that has plenty of material for it, and that one I plan to release at the end of the year. And I'm doing a really fun project with Eric Balke and Glenn Barrett from Hudson Harding Music. Mm-hmm. What we're doing is we're taking a collection of, I think it's 12 of my songs, mostly originals and a couple covers, and they're being reimagined from a purely folk point of view, because as you can probably tell if you listen to my music, I cross over just about every genre, from gospel to jazz to Americana to classical folk to Latin. And so what we're doing is making a really pure folk album, and we've selected the songs, and now I'm giving creative permission to Eric and Glenn. Glenn's a twice Grammy-winning sound engineer. So it will be fun to work on that. So those 2 albums are definitely coming out in 2022. And if I keep writing, considering I've written enough, to already be producing an album, I could have even another one. But I never know, because, I never know if I'm going to write, what I'm going to write about. It's very much living and being present and just seeing what pulls me.
Right. Well, it's exciting.
Yeah.
There's always possibilities coming up,
Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely.
Well, did you have one more you wanted to close
with?
Sure.
I should, in light of where we are in the pandemic, I really need to do this one. This is called Prayers, and it's a pandemic anthem. It's been called a pandemic anthem by many people. I wrote it in mid-April 2020 when a dear friend of mine, who's another singer named Bob DiCicco, went into the ICU onto a ventilator with a really bad COVID, where he was there for 4 weeks. And he is extraordinary because he actually survived it. Most people don't. And 3 more weeks in the hospital, double pneumonia, blood clot in the leg, 100 days in rehab, to go home to rehab some more. But he's got his voice back finally. It took a very long time, and he's out singing again. And at this point, as I look at the lyrics of the song, it's even more true. It starts out, it could be me, it could be you. It could be any one of us, parents, children too. No one is immune. Some are more at risk. We've never, ever had to live through a time like this. So I was hoping this might just be a time-limited song. It isn't. And actually, Amy Malkoff made 3 gorgeous lyric videos with images last week, and one of them is for Prayers. She did an amazing job. Right. So this is Prayers. It could be me. It could be you. It could be any one of us, parents, children too. No one is immune. Some are more at risk. We never ever had to live through a time like this. Prayers, hands tossed as one, asking for healing grace, sending love. Tears, we do not know. Will our loved ones survive? Must we let them go? Just a matter of time before the beast grabs hold of a loved one, inflicts this damn disease. Masks and gloves and distance, the ambulance arrives. They're taken from us as we yearn to be by their side. There, on the front lines, nurses and doctors working against time. Us on the phone, separated, wondering, will our loved ones die alone? I never could imagine that there'd ever be a time we'd lose someone so close and dear and not get to say goodbye. Prayers, hands clasped as one, asking for healing grace, sending love. Fears we cannot know. Will our loved ones survive? Must we let them go? Will our loved ones survive? Must we let them go?
Thank you, Linda. That was great. We're out of time, but I want to thank you for coming to One Broadway Collaborative, and you've been very supportive to date in a lot of ways.
My pleasure.
And eventually, hopefully, we'll get a real piano in here, and you can play that too.
I'll be very happy with that, yes.
And do you want to tell anyone anything in particular about what's coming up?
Well, my home album was released digitally on Thanksgiving, but the physical album's official release is January 1st. So if anyone still can play, appreciates physical CDs, even as a coffee table coaster for your own coffee mug, I have albums available of home. My other pandemic album, Monuments of Love, which has prayers on it, is available. My 2 2020 albums, Songs at the Heart of Life and The Piano, and all my other albums are available. And I would also invite you to look at the 3 gorgeous lyric videos that Amy Malkoff did for Be the Light, Nightmare in the Capitol, and Prayers. She did an amazing job capturing the imagery in the lyrics. And I find that when a person does a really good job with a lyric video, you really feel the song. So my music page is www.lindamarksmusic.com. Check out the Women in Music Gathering. We do shows both online and when it's safe in real life. And
we have that the 26th of February.
The 26th of February, we're doing a benefit for One Broadway Collaborative very proudly.
At One Broadway Collaborative.
At One Broadway Collaborative. Yeah. Even if it has to be hybrid where the audience watches virtually because God only knows where COVID will be, but one way or the other.
Yeah, we do have live stream, so we will be doing that if we have to. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks very much. And
my total privilege. Thank you for having me.
All right. And see you soon.
Thank you.